Alright, so we're going to be doing a lot of tests with Podgun. Admittedly, I didn't get too many good questions on YouTube or Discord, so I'm just going to be doing a lot of tests that I thought of myself for the most part, but there were a few. First off, the range of this thing, I would like to note, there is no range limit. This is me firing at my other test server account from the other side of Elon Station. And it's the reason it says 300 meters is because that's when it stops showing enemies. Like, enemies will not show up on your radar after 300 meters, and that's just how that works. But you can absolutely shoot at longer than 300 meters, and you can absolutely deal damage with those shots too. In terms of the spread, it is actually not that much. They wiggle a lot, kind of like Disc Launcher, but alas, I was able to snipe myself from almost 300 meters, so yeah. Now the delay on the floor, or like on the map, is 4 seconds. Delay on the mech is 2. You can put it on a respawn point before an enemy respawns, and then by the time they spawn in, they can get the delayed shots. It does not go through the spawn-in vulnerability though, which I think there are a few things that can, but this cannot. Now, testing the AoE damage here, I'm not sure what really happened, but apparently if you step on top of it, when it explodes, it just doesn't show the damage numbers. It still damages you, it just doesn't show the damage number on my screen. I don't know what's happening there. But for those of you who are claiming that they made Podgun to replace Disc Launcher, if you notice right here, Podgun's radius does not deal back damage either, which there are a few things that apparently don't, Disruptor being one of them. Now, testing it against Resistance being Vortex and Nomad, it works about how you'd expect. When it goes off is when it counts, and it's the same with the damage boost. So if it explodes when you're resistant, then you'll take less damage. If it explodes when you're boosting your damage, then the enemy will take more damage. So it's pretty intuitive in that regard. Now the invincibility time of Seeker is enough to completely block a couple of them. If you load it up full of shots, then it's not really going to be able to block all of them because it's spread over a longer period of time. But yeah, it can negate a few of them. And yes, of course, the most popular question that I got on Discord and YouTube was, can Seeker teleport with the pod stuck to it? And yes, it can. You can load up an ally, teleport to an enemy, and kill the enemy. And that is definitely possible. Is it possible to system crash the pods off of yourself or allies or the ground? No, is the answer. It doesn't do anything. And I was kind of expecting that to happen. You can crash off an ion pod, the Gatecrasher ability, but not this. And I'm assuming it's because it is a weapon projectile, not an ability projectile. But otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't really know. You can, of course, avoid all of the damage with Redeemer Backtrack, so long as you've been moving enough. Obviously, if you don't move very much, then the backtrack lasts only at like a fraction of a second, and then you end up getting exploded. Eclipse cannot negate the damage. You can still stick it to an Eclipse, and yeah, pretty much nothing. The only thing that Eclipse does is it takes away your homing thing, so that's pretty much it. You can stick it to an Aegis Dome, and it will explode, but if the enemy is on the other side of the dome, then it will not hurt it. Now, I tried to get a thing where like I stuck it to the enemy and then they put themselves kind of halfway between to basically put the wall or the shield between the pods and themselves to force it to take no damage. Similar to how you would block a Surge EMP dash when you're in an Aegis Dome. But I wasn't able to do that. Can you do it? Possibly, but I wasn't able to. Now, what happens with Aegis, the same goes for Panther. It cannot explode through the fence and deal damage to the other side, which is sad, but something that's very interesting that I noticed during these tests is that if the shield goes down, the pods that are stuck to it will immediately explode. You can technically get your damage out faster if you fire it at a wall that's about to go down. Now, regarding other shield abilities from the tanks, Juggernaut and Seeker are fairly straightforward. If they use their ability to get their shield before it goes off, then it will just explode and damage the shield before it damages the mech. Now, that happens with pretty much everything because it is a personal shield, so it goes between the mech and the pod, so you can block damage that way with a Seeker or a Juggernaut if you really wanted to. For Ares, Sentinel, and Bastion, that is not the case because their shields stick out a little bit from where they are. I find this kind of interesting thing with Ares, and the same goes with the other tanks, where if you can't really get up in their face, it won't, like, the game won't let you, but then if they start walking towards you, they can actually close that gap a bit and put your weapons through their shields, so now you can fire at them, like completely ignoring the shield. Now with these other shields, if you hit the shield with the pod, then it's going to damage the shield before it damages the mech. Same with Juggernaut and Seeker. However, when the shield goes down, it acts the same way as a Panther, Barrier, or an Aegis Dome, where the moment it goes down, anything that was currently stuck to it immediately explodes. So you will, whatever number of pods were on there at the time, those will go off and deal damage at the moment that the shield drops. If you use the Hunter's Mark, it works about like you'd expect. If you hit a mech, then it deals the additional damage. It also grants the Shield Pierce, and I'm not really sure how it works. I guess it's just if you damage the shield, it counts as damaging the mech as well, but yeah, I don't really know. I spent about 30 minutes testing various different things that I had, questions or theories about. But it is possible that I missed some things. Very likely I did miss one or two things because it's almost impossible to catch everything the first go around. But we learned some things, right? The radius does not deal back damage. You don't get additional damage with the radius on the floor. The range is non-existent. Like there's no range limit. It has all the range all the time and pretty reasonable accuracy as well. It just has the weird wiggle, so you're gonna have to have a bit of space on these sides to allow all of those to get through. It does deal double damage if you stick it to their back, and that's good. That also means that when you use an Orion Mark, it deals the copious amounts of damage that it should be dealing. Previously, I thought that they disappeared if a shield goes down when they're stuck to it, but they don't. They actually immediately detonate, which is even better for the podgun user. So yeah, there's that. But that's pretty much all I was able to find. That is going to be it for me. Appreciate y'all. Take care.